The surface is being vacuumed by wand more slowly than normal to show the difference between a well-vacuumed floor that then is shot blasted versus a floor that's just quickly wand vacuumed. The reason it's being done slowly is to just show how much more dust can be removed by shot blasting, even after carefully vacuuming. Normally a quicker vacuum would be done because shot blasting will get the bulk of the dust. In this case though, again, it's just to compare a well-vacuumed floor to a then subsequently shot blasted floor. The shot blaster being used to do a dedust is run over the floor whether it's been vacuumed carefully or not. The idea is to allow the shot blaster to travel across the floor, and as it does the process of sending the blast media to the floor, agitating the dust, and then under negative pressure recovering it back to the hopper, the shot to the hopper, and then the dust to the vacuum, the floor is getting noticeably cleaner. Whether or not the amount of dust that's left behind after careful vacuuming will cause a problem for subsequent coatings, it is difficult to argue that a clean substrate is shown after doing the shot blasting. Whether or not it's justified for the extra time and of course the expense of the machine, that is open to argument, but the demonstration does give an idea how much more clean the floor becomes after doing the dedusting using the shot blaster. With the dedusting complete, primer is going to be applied. That is then going to have Quartz Broadcast into it. This is a 38% solids water-based epoxy. It is a two-component product. In this particular demonstration, it's three because the color is being added to it to tint it black. Colors mixed into the base. And then the hardener, or the Part A, is added to this mix. The material is applied by dip and roll, plus or minus 10 mils. This will depend very much so on the porosity of the concrete as far as the consumption of the material. Normally, though, this particular material is not applied more than 10 mils thick, or about 160 feet per gallon. Immediately following the application, dry quartz is broadcast into the wet water-based epoxy. This is done to full saturation. Once complete, the floor is allowed to cure at least 3 hours. In this particular case, it's allowed to cure overnight. A vacuum wand is used again to recover the loose quartz that did not bond. It's hard to estimate how much actually will stick, and even this quartz could be reused. Here it's just simply being recovered from the dry epoxy quartz base. Closer inspection shows that a texture has been created. That's the whole purpose of this method of preparation, or priming. It's to create a texture that the overlay will bond to. Setting up the mix station. This is going to be done using the bucket holder, which works great for thick materials such as overlays so that the bucket doesn't spin. It's easy to keep it in place and not have to clamp it with the installer's feet while it's being mixed. So it makes it much easier to mix this thick material. Splash guard is being applied to the bucket to hold in the splashes from the mixing, and then also a variation, a hole's been drilled in the side of the splash guard to help to collect the dust that normally kicks out the top of the mix. This actually worked pretty well. The material is mixed. And then it's placed. The method of placement here, there's really no right or wrong way to do this. It's really a matter of what the objective is. In this case, it's going to be a wood plank of some sort. It really hasn't been decided at this point, but the aim with the overlay here and applying it this way is to pull it in a linear pattern that runs in parallel lines. Rather than start with the whole mass of material, the trick is to pull out only enough from the bucket that's needed for each parallel row. This allows for fresh material to be introduced to the surface and then pulled at basically the same viscosity because every row comes from the bucket. The alternative would be dumping the whole mass on the floor and then pulling it back and forth, except then the material would start to lose some of its moisture, would start to thicken, would need extra water, which could affect the color, the density, the polymer. The idea by pulling from the bucket for each row makes that placement more uniform. With the initial placement complete, the next step, again, there's no rule that this must be done or that it can't be done. Water's being misted over the top, spikes are being worn, and the magic trowel is being dragged back across the surface one more time in the same direction. This helps to smooth out any lumps as well as create a little bit of a ripple texture on the surface. And that's about it. The material will be left to cure overnight and see what happens.